Back.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I've been chosen by the other commissioners here to address your level of intensity on that dadgum gavel you have. What we want you to do, we just want to request this, turn the microphone off before you start beating.
What it is, Director Carter brought me some popcorn, and I'm actually trying to pop it up there with that gavel. I will do better in the future. All right, let's get started back at this time. I would like to turn it over to,
Hey, we're going back into the meeting.
let me wait on him to get off the telephone right here. Steve, he just,
Whack it harder.
whack it harder. That's about, he has to attend all the meetings coming up and all that kind of stuff. Chairman Woods, I apologize. We will now turn it over to you, Government Relations Committee. You are the chairperson, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr.
This is the Jamie Gleason show.
Absolutely.
Y'all feel- Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my wonderful colleagues, whom I adore. Chris Richardson has joined us. He actually was finishing up House action on the floor today, and I think has good recent news to deliver, but would like to call on him for a legislative update.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, other members of the commission. Try to keep my update as short as possible, but there are a few critical things that I want to let you know has been going on down on the Hill since we last met. First and foremost, and probably most importantly to all of you, our sunset bill has passed both houses, has been signed by the governor, and the Fish and Wildlife Commission has been extended until 2018. We were very happy to have that piece of legislation out of the way. The second piece of legislation that the commission had asked me to bring to the legislature this year was a resolution regarding the issues surrounding the permanent senior citizens license. The resolution that we introduced urges the Fish and Wildlife Service to reconsider their action regarding not allowing us to include our permanent senior license holders in our annual license certification, or at the very least, to grandfather in those license holders that were in existence when the change was made. That resolution has passed the House floor and has made its way through the Senate committees, and I am very optimistic that it will pass the Senate floor next week. That resolution will then be transmitted to our congressional delegation, and I can say that during the process of this resolution moving through both houses, we were able to really raise some awareness about this issue. The legislators were very concerned with the loss of those federal dollars, and I think it's created a positive climate to discuss how to move forward in the future regarding our permanent senior license. And I can also, I think, say that the directors, the resolution moving through our State House has created some positive climate for discussions with the Fish and Wildlife Service. And those talks are not over, and we're still very hopeful that there will be some change by the Fish and Wildlife Service. Third piece of legislation that we carried this year was a bill to create an exception to a one-time exception to the Wetlands Fund requirement and allow us to have the authority to purchase a piece of property over in Monroe County, which is 4,200 acre upland tract of land that sits immediately between the Great Smoky Mountain National Park and the Cherokee National Forest. I'm pleased to say that this morning the House took action 93-1, passed that bill, which will now be transmitted to the governor. The legislation doesn't in any way compel us to spend any money, but if that piece of property comes for sale and the deal is right, it will authorize Director Carter to use wetlands funds to purchase that upland tract on a one-time basis. Generally, the legislature is moving furiously towards adjournment. Committees are closing, and the legislature will, I feel very confident, will adjourn sometime between now and Good Friday. A couple of other things that TWRA has participated in. We had Ag Day on the Hill this week. And special thanks to Wally Cook and Clint Borum, who came down and manned the TWRA booth. We were able to educate some folks on some of the things that our private lands biologists can do for landowners. And it was just a good all-around day on the Hill. We also had our license sales on the Hill this year. And I am happy to report that in 2 days we sold over $8,000 worth of hunting and fishing licenses at the legislature. And I do want to give a special thanks to wildlife officers Matt Bryan, Dale Grandstaff, Andy Rush, and Eric Tummins, and also our licensed sale ladies, Faye Hickerson, Susie Spriggs, Becky Allen, and Tracy Sovine, who came down there and worked so hard to make that day happen. Generally, that's where we're at. And with that, I'll take any questions the commission has.
Great. Commissioner Cox?
I have no question, but I would like to tell you personally, thank you for for our trip to the legislature yesterday. You're obviously doing a good job. I was impressed with the way you handled us and the legislators that we talked to, and you did a great job, so thank you.
Well, thank you, Commissioner, and I can say it was a pleasure having you all down there on the Hill yesterday. It was a good day for me, and I enjoyed spending it with y'all.
Any other questions? With that, I want to just echo the thanks from the previous leadership of this commission to the current leadership of the commission to our team members with the agency who are working this. We had a very specific mission this legislative cycle, which was to build partnerships, to raise awareness, and to really think about how we can work together with our partners in the legislature. And I think that just this report amplifies success that, at least in recent years, has, for a variety of reasons, just not occurred. The Sunset Bill being placed on House consent and passing on the House consent calendar, I'm unaware, at least in my lifetime since 1998, that that's ever occurred. It may have happened before then. I'm just unaware of it. And so I very much appreciate the work that Chris Richardson has done, and each member of this commission has taken a personal responsibility in your roles to be a constituent servant and a legislative liaison in your own right. And so I just want to thank everyone for that work. I think it is a great start for even more important conversations that are going to come in the future. So thank y'all.
Madam Chairman.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Ripley.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I want to also commend you, Chris. Things seem to be really going well. And I think that is a testament to your hard work and the skill that you're doing your work with. So thanks very much. I think we're way ahead now.
Thank you. Couldn't do it without the attitude of the commission.
With that, then, Mr. Chairman, thank you, Chris, very much.
Chris, I echo the same thoughts. You're doing an outstanding job, and we appreciate yesterday as well. It was a lot of fun that day, and it was good for us to come together as a commission and spend a little time with each other as well. At this time, I will turn it over to James Stroud, Chairman of the Retention and Recruitment Committee. Mr. James.
Thank you, Chairman. At this time, I'd like to recognize Director Carter, and he's going to give us an update on the governor's one-shot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few comments. Y'all are well aware, the governor's one-shot turkey hunt comes up sometime during the early part of turkey season for the last several years, and it's a way to raise money for the Wildlife Foundation, whose sole mission is to support the Wildlife Resources Agency. So that's a good thing. I know a lot of y'all are participating this year and have in the past. There are a number of people that have sponsored other folks to hunt. I think this is, if I'm not mistaken, the record number for the number of people participating as hunters this year. But just a quick rundown. I know a lot of you are already heavily involved, so I won't spend a lot of time unless you have questions. But things start actually on Friday, starting tomorrow. You can register if you're hunting from 9 to 5. There's a registration. There's also a time period in there where you can do some clay target shooting if you're a member of the hunting group. Tomorrow evening is a concert. Thanks to Commissioner Stroud and a lot of his contacts, we have some really big name folks coming in to entertain anybody that wants to come. It's open to the public. The tickets are $25 or $35 at the door. But there's the Kentucky Headhunters, Daryl Singletary, and Killer Bees are all entertaining tomorrow night. So it opens at 5:30. The concert actually begins at 7. There's concessionaires there, food vending. There's also some exhibits and so forth to come and enjoy that. Then tomorrow, Saturday morning, the hunt actually begins. For those people hunting, they'll already be aware that it starts about 6 o'clock. For most of them, it's actually a lot earlier than that by the time they get together and go where they're going. After a day of hunting and all the check-ins and measuring of the birds and all, hopefully they'll gobble even though it's snowing or raining. But at 5 o'clock, the doors open for the social hour that precedes the banquet for the people who are hunting and others who want to attend. So that will actually start at 6 o'clock then. The banquet will go on. There's the awards ceremony and the recognition, and then there's a live auction. And my understanding, Lieutenant Governor Ramsey is going to serve as the auctioneer for the live auction for Saturday evening, for the different hunts and the different things that people have donated to the foundation in order to help raise the money. And it will go on, of course, until everybody gets tired and wants to go home, which is generally, for most of us, 8:30 or 9 o'clock. So. But anyway, that's pretty much a rundown. It's a really good event. A lot of people are coming there. As Commissioner Cannon said earlier, the Moment of Freedom Blind, they're debuting that, since you get an idea of what some of those are going to look like. It's always a good time. It's a good social event for everybody that wants to be involved, and a lot of the public really has supported it in the past. WSM Radio has done a number of ads over the last 2 to 3 weeks. I know the foundation members and Don King and his people have been on with Bill Cody in the morning pushing this pretty hard. So with a little luck, we're going to have a pretty good crowd. But regardless, it will be a fun thing to do. I appreciate the support of each of you who have contributed, whether you're hunting or not, and thank you very much for that. So, Commissioner, that's about all I have.
Thank you, Director Carter. If I may, Mr. Chairman, let me update you just really quick on our TV show. Don King's doing a great job for us, by the way. We're meeting with the production team next week. It's a Wednesday. And we're going to look at the new format, a new host, some of the treatments, and basically some of the structure change of what we've been doing in the past. So I'll be glad to, on our next meeting, be sure to update you on this. But it looks like it's moving in a real positive direction. I think these guys are really good at what they do. I met the whole team. I think, what is it, Don, Wednesday? Wednesday of next week, I'll have a lot more to be able to give you some information on, but I'm feeling really good about the new direction and what we're doing and the changes we're making that we all as commissioners have had concerns about in the past, and I think we're going to be in pretty good shape. Thanks. Back to you.
Thank you, Chairman Stroud. All right, at this time, we'll move on to the Budget Committee. Chairman Harold Cannon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 3 budget expansions, after which Ken Tarkington will give us a financial report update. Let me recognize Bobby Wilson. He has an aquatic nuisance species grant of $24,286.
Thank you, Commissioner Cannon. Yeah, this is a grant, an annual grant that we request to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for helping us with the control and battling for aquatic nuisance species. In the past, we've used it for posters and signs. We actually have a display at the Tennessee Aquarium in Chattanooga on aquatic nuisance species that we help fund as part of this grant. This is the federal side of it. It does require a match, but the match will be indirect cost with our time that we spend. And we spend a lot of time, especially we have lately looking for the Asian carp and Kentucky Lake and Lake Barkley, Cheatham, and so forth. So that'll be the state match for this particular grant.
Mr. Chairman, noting that the match on this is basically in-kind services and nothing will be coming out of our budget, I recommend approval of a budget expansion for aquatic nuisance species grant of $24,286.
All right, I have a motion to have a second. It's been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion has passed for aquatic nuisance species grant for $24,286. Next item, Mr. Chairman.
The committee recognizes Tim Churchill regarding the acquisition of 205 acres in Hickman County for $417,000. This will be done with 100% federal dollars, assuming commission's approval. Tim?
Oops, that's not the right one.
I'll just show it like that. I can't see my little icon. Should have brought my glasses. This is, we talked about these tracks last month. There's two tracks here. One is this very large tract. It's about 1,550 acres. It's being transferred to the agency by the Department of Corrections. And these are the tracks that I'm requesting this expansion for. It's actually one tract. It's adjoins the Duck River, and again, it adjoins this large tract here that we're currently getting. To buy this, we can use the value of this large tract as the non-federal match. So what I'm requesting is the federal portion. It's just $417,000 to purchase this in fee, and this will give us some extra hunting land and some access to the river as well. So that's what I got. That's my ask.
Are there any questions from the commission, the public? Mr. Chairman, I move approval of this budget expansion line item for the 205 acres in Hickman County.
Okay, I have a motion, have a second. Been properly seconded, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion to expand the budget 205 acres in Hickman County, $417,000 is approved. All right, next item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Committee recognizes Gray Anderson regarding the Partners Project for fiscal year 15. $25,000 is being requested for the expansion. This is all federal money.
That is correct. And these dollars are provided through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Ecological Services Office in Cookeville. It's an ongoing partnership. They basically allow us, when their budgets are sound, they basically give us $25,000 a year for rare species habitat management and enhancements on private lands. And we do this through our normal private lands programs and other rare species programs. And again, these are all federal dollars.
Is there any discussion or questions from the commission or the public? Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of a budget expansion for $25,000 supporting the Partners Project for fiscal year 15.
Okay, I have a motion, to have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Motion to expand the budget FY15 Partners Project, $25,000 passes. Okay.
Committee recognizes Ken Tarkington for the up-to-date financial report. Ken?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a one-pager, front and back in your book, report on the financial report. This is on the month of February 2014. At the top of the page, the boating income is approximately 25% higher than it was at this point in time, or at that point in time last year, or the year before. The expenses for the month approximate 38%, or approximately 38% of the annual allotment for the year. The middle of the page, the Wildlife Fund, the sale of hunting and fishing licenses, general revenue is approximately 5% ahead of the same point in time the previous year. And just under that, you can see the senior citizens license, the monthly sales for February were 868. The expenses on the wildlife allotment are approximately 51% of the year through February. And at the bottom of the page, the endowment, the two endowment funds, the Watchable Wildlife has approximately $6,500 that can be transferred for watchable projects. The actual balance is $5.8 million. The Lifetime Sportsman Endowment has a little over $36 million as a balance in it. At the top of the back page, I guess, would be the Wetlands Acquisition Fund. It has approximately $12,600,000. Balance, we've zeroed the maintenance account out as we usually do, and the compensation, or the in lieu of tax account, has a little over $801,000. Any questions or comments?
Any questions or comments for Ken? One point of information, and keep me straight here, all right? We're aware that much of Ken's responsibilities he's now answering to Nashville downtown, but then in fact you are able to stay here and take care of most of that reporting. Is that
It
fair?
appears.
Okay. So, any questions? Mr. Mr. Chairman, that concludes our report.
Okay. Director Carter, would you come to the podium? I've got a question or two for you, please, sir. Most of you know our next meeting will be April 24th and 25th, which will be a Thursday, Friday. Director Carter, if I understand it right, is this the salute to commissioners of the anniversary, 65th?
It is,
Can
April
you-
24th, Thursday evening.
Kind of tell us maybe a little bit what to expect and what's going on?
Yes, sir. But, trying to think how many years ago it was now, probably 4 or so, that we had a salute to former commissioners, and we just invited back every person who had ever served as a commissioner who wanted to come back and renew old ties and see what had happened in terms of how the agency had progressed since they were commissioners and what kind of strides we had made. And we had a great turnout. And we've done the same thing again. We also invite the former chiefs and regional managers, people who have retired from the agency, and so everybody gets to mingle a little bit, and also a little bit of selfish motive in trying to help plot some things as we go forward as to what would be the best avenue to go. But anyway, we'll start at 6 o'clock on Thursday evening with just a little social time, and about 6:45 we'll begin the evening meal. We have some, I shouldn't call it entertainment. We have some things will be showing up on the screen up in the barn, which is we call the barn. It's the auditorium, Ed Jones Auditorium right here on the Ag Center. So we'll be meeting there and have so far really good returns on people who are planning on being here. I've heard from several former commissioners, so that will take place that evening. And it is actually, April is the 65th anniversary of what used to be the Game and Fish Commission, now the Wildlife Resources Agency, and it's also the salute to the former commissioners.
Okay. Also, there was some mention today during the meeting about the multi-state meeting. All the commissioners have the dates for each commission meeting the rest of the year, except for June, and I think today we need to go ahead and finalize that. And plan on meeting in Chattanooga on June 19th, 20th, and 21st. Correct me, Director Carver, if I'm wrong. You and I have been talking about this, but the 21st, we're looking at trying to have that multi-state meeting with some other states on Saturday. And so I'd like to let the commissioners know that and the public as well. So, and then our May meeting is the 22nd and 23rd coming up. You have anything else?
Might just mention, I've talked to some of the other states. The initial multi-state meeting we held, co-hosted with Mississippi, right on the Tennessee-Mississippi line. And it was 4 states, including Tennessee at the time. I'm talking to some of the other states that, depending on how everything falls out, but we have real interest from South Carolina, North Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, and probably Arkansas that would like to attend the multi-state meeting. It will, as you say, it'll take place in conjunction with the same time period as the commission meeting in Chattanooga. And at some point, I'd like to meet with Commissioner Watson and you to go over a couple of details there. But anyway, it looks like it's going to be a pretty good turnout.
And I will mention, too, tentatively, the 19th would be a field day.
Yes.
And going up and looking at that mountain. So it may be a one-day commission meeting on Friday, but it's still kind of in the works. But I wanted y'all to mark your calendars so that you would know. Does anyone on the commission have anything that, Director Carter, you still have the floor?
Well, I'm not on the commission, but if I can.
Yes, sir.
I know I've been a little wordy today, and I'd like to continue in that vein. First of all, I guess Joe's not in here right now. I just want to say welcome to Joe Benedict for being here. The day we hired Joe, I got an email from the director in Florida, and big bold letters, it says, "We're at war." I consider, he went on to say he considers this serious personnel poaching and that there will be retribution of some kind. And I'm sure I didn't help out things when I said, well, if you had the choice to work in Florida or Tennessee, where would you go? But anyway, I also wanted to say welcome to Commissioner King. Pleasure to have you on board the commission. Look forward to working with you as well. Had the chance to see her shoot ducks once or twice, and so I wouldn't want to make her mad, so I think she's pretty good at that. But, welcome there. And I just wanted to go over a couple of things. I'm going to go back just for a second, back to the Flyway Council, things that we were talking about. If y'all remember, you approved a letter that I sent to the Fish and Wildlife Service asking that the Flyway Council start to look at the vulture problem in Tennessee. A lot of the farmers are griping about livestock damage, and we've done that. And I got to go over and meet a little bit when the Flyway Council was meeting here in Nashville. And we kind of talked about buzzards for a minute, and oddly enough, that is the proper place to bring this up. We've talked to Fish and Wildlife Service. Commissioner Bledsoe showed me a letter that the Farm Bureau had put together thanking us for what we were doing and stuff. And that was a good thing as well. That's actually moving through the system. It won't be anytime soon. It takes a long way, if you heard today, before anything actually happens. But I'm looking in 3 to 4 years, there'll probably be something that will allow us to do something very similar to what we've done on nuisance geese and on cormorants and some of the other species that are causing problems. On to the forestry thing, I should have mentioned earlier, Ken Arney was chief of our forestry division for quite some time, and Ken left to become the state forester, left the agency and go there. Now he's the deputy director of the Forest Service in the southeast. But John Gregory was working with Ken when they were together. John stepped into that and took what Ken had done and built on it even more. And just wanted to recognize John for all he did in his years in the forestry program and all that it meant, as you can see what it led up to today. Might even mention that Steve Patrick used to be the forester on Catoosa, but we've corrected everything that he did, and we're moving on. Now, some good news, bad news, I guess. We got our final apportionments from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on what kind of money we'll be getting for this upcoming year. On the sport fish side, it is dramatically lower than it's lower than it's been in 10 years. So we will see a significant decrease on the sport fish side of things, which is a double whammy to us. If we don't get the thing corrected with the lifetime senior citizen license, when that happened, we were already maximized. Every bit of the money that was coming in on sport fish from the federal side was obligated. So when we lost that $1 million, that came out of license money that we weren't expecting. So that decreased it, not only the $1 million that we were hoping to get through the federal side, but it literally hit $1 million on the license side, and then another $1 million, even though it's a total of $2 million, is another $1 million on the PR side. But anyway, we're kind of concerned about the sport fish side of things. Of that money that's coming in, 15% of that is mandated to go to access areas, and our access area program will feel the pinch of that as well, because there'll be a similar reduction in that. So just want to put you on notice that's kind of where we're headed on the sport fish side of things. It's not real promising looking there. On the good side of that, the reauthorization of the whole sport fish account is up in Congress this year. I went by Senator Alexander's office the other day, who sets on the appropriations for Fish and Wildlife Service for the Department of Interior, and they're solidly on board of trying to help make sure that thing goes through. If it does go through as it's reauthorized, we'll actually increase over where we've been in the past. It's a very complicated fund altogether, but a lot of money was going to a fund that was being overpaid, so we should be giving some of that money back. So even though it's going to go down, we won't feel it. I mean, if it goes through and it passes, we'll get some extra funding, but we won't feel that for about 2 years. So anyway, this next year is not going to be very good. On to the good news side of things, the Pittman-Robertson side of things, on the wildlife restoration, is higher than it's ever been. It's approximately twice what we normally get in a year for any kind of wildlife restoration money. And along with that, because hunter education is attached to that, the hunter education is also significantly up, and also range construction. It's to the point that, based on what we've brought before you, it will fund all of the range projects that we have brought before you for consideration, and still have some money left over to look for future projects that we could go forward with in hunter education, and especially in ranges. This is one of those peaks and valleys. Back down into the valley for a second, all the state wildlife grants, which is all of our non-game funding, took a significant hit again. It's gone down for the last 3 years in a row, and this year it took a pretty significant nosedive. So all of our funding for our non-game species is if it goes through as the president's budget is put together, it is the one that's not associated with a trust fund. So while we have the sport fish restoration and we have the wildlife restoration, they're trust funds, and that whatever goes in is going to come out. We're going to get that eventually. On the state wildlife grants, it's whatever the governor's budget, whatever the president's budget has. And I know that several congressmen and our senator or two has told us that they'd like to restore that. And again, Senator Alexander, being on that appropriations for Interior, has pledged to me that they want to make sure that gets back to at least to the funding level that it was last year, if at all possible. To That's all I'll stop there for a second. If anybody had any question on that funding part, but just wanted you to know, we just literally got that this week to tell us what our apportionments were going to be. So some encouraging news, some not so encouraging, but it could be a lot more bleak than I just outlined for you, because in some areas it's really good. Talking about the bass tournaments and things for a second, Rusty talked about the economic impact. I'm going to go back to where we're talking on the overall strategic plan and where we're going money-wise. Still don't really know how it will all come out, but part of what we're looking at is fish and wildlife business in Tennessee drives over $5 billion a year into the state of Tennessee and several millions of dollars in sales tax. And while all of those things are good that he was talking about, and I'm glad to see them and glad they're a part of it, as you know, none of that money comes back in to fund those programs that drive that economic boost. And we would really like to make sure that everybody understands that as we go forward in looking at how we might fund some of the different programs in the agencies. Along that same line, in July, there is a tournament to be held in Tennessee, part on Paris Landing and part on the New Carroll County Lake. There are 45 states who are sending 2 boats each to be a part of this tournament. It's all high schools. So every high school, it kind of goes what Rusty was talking about in making sure that we got younger people coming into fishing. All of those states are sending those people, and they're going to end up with a banquet that Saturday night. I've talked to the people that are involved in that, and we'll have a role in that as well. But just wanted you to know that Tennessee is hosting the first ever tournament of high school fishing bass clubs. So, and I guess with that, the only last thing I would ask you, if everybody has the time to do that, and Lee, if you don't mind, we probably need a new picture or two, commission-wise, to update the website and things. And if you've got a few minutes after this is over, we could certainly do that. But anyway, thanks for your time. I didn't mean to talk quite so much, but thank you for the opportunity to do that.
Is there any other business that needs to come before the commission today?
I just want to commend Chairman Griggs for a well-run meeting, and I can't put my finger on it, but it went a lot smoother than it has in the past year or so. So, excellent job.
I will say, Commissioner Stroud, I will get a piece of carpet and put on the end of this gavel. I'll do better, sir. Can I adjourn us without hitting him? Wait, okay, we're adjourned.